Emilie, our lovely perfume girl, is finally back. Thank God, it's been such a long time. So today we're going to spend a bit of a video talking about her to see whether or not she's still going to be worth it character for you guys to actually go ahead and pull. Because I know some of you guys out there may be considering her. Well, technically I've already pulled for her because generally I do like her playstyle. So I'll still provide the overall pros and cons of Emilie so that you guys can make a better decision. Mavuika is going to be coming back soon, and I know that many of you are excited for her. So if you're planning to swipe for pulling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 25% on all of your top-ups. With over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point. And by the way, this also applies to PS5 and Xbox user who can place orders through Loot Bar. You can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. Here you can see my order receipts of all of my top-ups that I have done. And for those who are going for the highest package when topping up, there's also a limited discount options available once every version. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. Now, ever since Emilie was released, her popularity technically wasn't already high. She is not a bad character in any way. At least when she was released, there weren't any even dedicated DPS character that can be used on an Emilie team to be able to make full use of her potential. Not at least until Kinich actually came. But the downside of when Kinich came is that Emilie wasn't back, which is why I'm pretty sure not many of us do actually have access to her. Now, the time of Kinich popularity has passed by a bit, therefore even if she has a rerun, I don't think her popularity in terms of pulling is going to increase anytime soon. Then at the end of the day, anything that she's capable of ever since she's released, she's still able to do it really well. And there has been some additional content being released that she can use, like some characters and some weapon here and there, so that you can have more access to playstyle. Now, generally for Emilie Skills and Kit, it's honestly very simple. What she does is that she is a sub DPS Dendro character that deals really high damage, generally going to be single target damage, but the damage multiplier is really high, which is why you're going to be able to see quite high number popping up on screen for Dendro whenever you have her lamp on the field. Now, Emilie's Dendro application herself isn't too great because the lamp attack interval is rather slow, but overall, especially when she's a character that focuses on burning reaction most of the time, you aren't required to have too fast of a Dendro application anyway. Overall, that's just what Emilie does. It's very simple. Sometimes you can have her being on field as a DPS character. For example, if you have a Bennett on your team, you can have her being on field to have her poem infused with pyro, and then she's basically just going to be applying pyro, and together you're going to have more burning reactions across the board. So overall, at this point in time, Emilie pros and cons is just that generally, as we've mentioned, she's got really good off-field damage with technically permanent uptime. So yes, her lap is always going to be on the field. She doesn't actually rely on her burst a lot. However, whenever her burst is on, it does help her to deal quite nice damage number. She also has access to on-field DPS playstyle if you want to. And the interesting thing about Emilie is that even though she's made for burning reactions, her team building is actually pretty flexible. We're going to discuss a bit more in the team comp section in a bit, but like many of you may be thinking that Emilie team is just restricted to just having only pyro and Dendro character. Well, technically it's not just that. You can have multiple other team comps to play around as well. Now, downside right now is that she has low Dendro application. Most of her attack are rather single target attack. And then yes, if you want to pull out the maximum potential of Emilie, you are required to have kind of like a burning reactions on her team. So at least have one pyro and herself being on the team, and then you can mix and match the other character, just making sure that you have a burning reactions available for Emilie. Now, obviously, ever since Emilie was released, there has been some newly released character that may be able to work alongside with her. Well, generally, of course, that is going to be Kinich, who was released, if I remember correctly, back in 5.1, just a 1 or 2 patches after Emilie is released. So if you are focusing on Kinich, for example, example, yes, Emilie is a perfect character for that. Now other than that, we do have Pyro Traveler as well as Mavuika. Yes, they are Pyro character and they can definitely be used and benefit from having Emilie on their specific team. Now looking into Emilie team comps, of course I'm not going to be able to go through all the potential team comps here for Emilie in today's video, but we're going to go through the main concept of her team building so that you guys can be aware of, because it's pretty important for Emilie about this, since again most of the time it is surrounding burning. However, the flexibility in terms of her team comp is actually amazing that I don't think many of us are aware of. First off, her general team is definitely just going to be a double Dendro and a double Pyro, you know, teams such as Emilie, Kinich, Bennett and Mavuika. That team is probably her very best team at the current point. Not to mention, in the current new endgame content, Dendro Burning team is actually being promoted. Well, of course, because Emilie is generally back. Now, other than that, you can also have Emilie and Bennett to have the Burning Reaction core, and then have double Geo character to be on their specific team, you know, like Emilie and Zhongli, or you know, if you have Albedo, Chiori and Albedo can technically be on the same team. And then you do have a Bennett to be on the field to actually consistently apply Pyro to make sure that Burning Reaction is available. And yes, the rest of your team is just going to be doing really nice sub DPS number. I think that's a decent team that you can use for Emilie as well. Other than that, you also have Burn Melt or Burn Vape if you are looking into it. So for example, you have Emilie, you have a Pyro character. The third slot is either going to be a Cryo DPS or Hydro DPS, and then the final slot is a Flex character, right? In which you can have teams such as Emilie, Mulani, Mavuika, and then in the last slot you can have Shilonen, for example, so that you can heal, buff your team damage overall. Now the only thing with this team is that it has 4 different elements, so it's not really too recommended. But if you want to have such as Bennett to be in a Shilonen's place, or you know, like a Farina, if you can actually nuke your enemies very fast with Mulani so that you don't need healing, or you know, if you have Kokomi to heal up so that you support Mulani with Hydro Resonance, I think overall it's still going to be a rather fine team. One of the more simple burn bait teams you can have is like a Emilie, Farina, Xiangling and a Bennett, and that's also a pretty amazing team. For burn melt, you can actually have a team such as Emilie, Ganyu, Dia and Bennett, especially when Dia does help Ganyu with knockback. Overall, that is going to be a decent burn melt team. Now, other than that, you can also have quick burn as well, where there is an Electro character alongside with Emilie, a Pyro character and a Flex. An example team would be you having Emilie, Cloran, Mavuika, and then the last slot can potentially be a Electro sub DPS character like Fischl. Very interesting team that you can have access to Emilie being on the team. And since Cloran can sustain herself, you don't really need a specific healer on this team either. And then when touching on Dendro team, well, technically if you really want to, Emilie can still be on a specific Nilou Dendro team, and she'll still be able to satisfy his Nilou Bloom team reactions. It's just that she's not going to be able to pull out her best potential if you are using her in pretty much a dedicated Hyper Bloom kind of team. So as we've mentioned, she's more or less does requires you to have at least one Pyro character being on her team, but other than that, as we've mentioned and have seen from what we just discussed, her team comp can be rather flexible if you really want to. So overall, from everything we've just discussed, what I think about Emilie is that she's an interesting character that I always have liked. The only thing is that her popularity in terms of kind of like a must-have character to be on your team is definitely not ever going to be there. At this point in time, we already have like 2 very good DPS characters, Mavuika and Kinich, that will be able to make use of Emilie. Generally, if you are a Kinich main, you would love to have Emilie on your team. That is technically kind of like the only requirement whenever you are looking to have the best of the best Kinich team. Other than that, it's not a must-have for Emilie to be any of the team comps, but her team building is pretty diverse, and that's what I kind of like about Emilie. So yes, is she a must pull character? Definitely a no, but if you do have Emilie on your account, you will be able to find a way to make Emilie work and do really nice number for you on your account. So that's all I have to say about Emilie, guys. I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any question, leave it down in the comment section. I or some other lovely Genshin player will get to you there. Again, guys, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on my future Genshin videos. With that, I wish you a super day, and I'll catch you on my next video.